November 29, 1981, 7:44 a.m. A harbor patrol officer spots something floating face down in the water off Blue Cavern Point, approximately 1 mile from Isthmus Cove, Catalina Island. The body is wearing a red down jacket, flannel nightgown, and wool socks. No shoes. The victim is identified as Natalie Wood, 43 years old, Academy Award-nominated actress. Last seen alive approximately 8 hours earlier on the yacht Splendor. But this is where the timeline becomes problematic. At approximately 11:05 p.m. the previous night, 7 hours before the Coast Guard was notified, a couple on a nearby boat reported hearing a woman's voice crying for help. Quote, "Somebody, please help me. I'm drowning." The Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department ruled it accidental drowning within 48 hours. The official theory: Natalie Wood slipped while attempting to tie down a dinghy that was banging against the yacht. She fell into 58-degree water, alone, in the middle of the night. But the coroner's report contains a single phrase that contradicts this narrative: other undetermined factors. By the time you finish watching this, you'll understand why the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department reopened this investigation 30 years after her death, and why Robert Wagner was named a person of interest in 2018. This is not the story of a Hollywood tragedy. This is a timeline of contradictions. For people were aboard the Splendor on the night of November 28, 1981. Natalie Wood, her husband Robert Wagner, her co-star Christopher Walken, and the yacht captain Dennis Davern. The yacht departed Marina del Rey on Thanksgiving weekend. By Saturday evening, they were docked at Isthmus Cove. They took the dinghy to shore for dinner, where witnesses testified that all four appeared to be drinking heavily. They returned to the yacht between 9:30 and 10 p.m. Now here's where witness testimony begins to fracture. In his initial statement, Captain Dennis Davern said the evening was uneventful. Robert Wagner told investigators that he and Walken stayed up talking, and he assumed Natalie had gone to bed. He claimed that sometime around 11 p.m., he noticed the dinghy was missing and assumed Natalie had gone ashore. He did not call for help. But 30 years later, Dennis Davern changed his story completely. On national television, Davern stated that he heard Wagner and Walken arguing in the main salon. Not a casual disagreement, an argument. Davern now claims Wagner became enraged, smashed a wine bottle, and shouted at Walken. Quote, "Do you want to fuck my wife? Is that what you want?" Walken allegedly left the salon. Moments later, Davern heard Wood's voice, described as muffled and distressed. Davern claims Wagner told him, "She's gone. She took the dinghy." And then Wagner allegedly said something that would haunt this case for decades. "We'll look for her in the morning." The autopsy was conducted by Dr. Thomas Noguchi. Blood alcohol content, 0.14%. Stomach contents indicate she died within 2 hours of her last meal. Time of death, estimated between 11:30 p.m. and 12:30 a.m. But it's the injuries that don't fit the narrative. The coroner documented bruises on both wrists, bruises on her right forearm, a facial abrasion on her left cheek, scratches on her neck. In 2012, after the investigation was reopened, the Los Angeles County Coroner amended the autopsy report. The new conclusion: the bruises on Wood's arms and wrists were not consistent with injuries sustained in the water. Translation: Natalie Wood was injured before she drowned. Now consider this physical evidence in context. Natalie Wood had a documented, lifelong fear of dark water. Her sister confirmed in multiple interviews that Natalie refused to enter dark water or take boats out alone after sunset. And yet, the official theory requires us to believe that on a cold, rainy November night, intoxicated, wearing a nightgown and socks, Natalie Wood voluntarily untied a dinghy and attempted to leave the yacht alone, in the dark. The dinghy was found approximately 1 mile from the yacht. The ignition was in the off position. The oars were still secured. She never started the engine. She never rowed. So how did the dinghy travel a mile from the yacht? But the jacket also raises another question. If she slipped while trying to secure the dinghy, why was she wearing a heavy down jacket over her nightgown? You don't put on a coat to step outside for 30 seconds. You put on a coat when you're planning to leave, or when someone tells you to leave. At 1:30 a.m., approximately 2.5 hours after Natalie Wood was last seen, Captain Dennis Davern contacted the Harbor Patrol, but he did not report a missing person. He asked if they had seen the yacht's dinghy. At 3:30 a.m., he contacted them again to report her missing. The Coast Guard wasn't officially notified until 3:45 a.m. Why did Robert Wagner wait over 4 hours to report his wife missing? In his initial statement, he claimed he thought she was at the restaurant or with friends, but the restaurant was closed and there were no friends nearby. If Natalie Wood's death was an accident, why has the story changed so many times? The case remains open.